They lied to y'all. Today, we're breaking down the lies.
Today, we're breaking down the systemic problems
and the logistical nightmares
of living internationally that no one warned you about.
When we first started living international, our biggest nightmare, our largest anxiety is not being able to access our money on the road.
And that came true for us during our first year of living abroad.
We were denied access.
Yeah. So, and this is despite preparing our banks ahead of time. You know, at the time, we had to call and let them know we'll be traveling out of the country, we'll be returning. Never.
I was dealing with a credit union at the time. That same credit union shut me out of my funds. This was our major bank account. So I'm gonna straighten it out. We call the bank and they go to authenticate me to make sure that I am who I am. And we run into another roadblock.
Right. And this is crazy because like that little plastic card, that is your lifeline out there. But this is any of your accounts that you're logging into and your device registers that you're in a different country and it forces a text verification code to be sent to your US phone.
3 words that I have come to loathe since we've been living on the road. 2-factor authentication. I despise these words from head to toe.
Right, and the thing is, for us, we cut ties with our
Completely.
US phone number. Bye.
Bye-bye, Sprint. I want none of you.
Goodbye,
Verizon, holla back, sucker. No more of
Right.
that. And it came about us in the behind because we had the hardest time authenticating who we were to get to our account.
Exactly, especially with the changes in time zone and trying to contact your bank in this instance when they're open.
It was like a 2 or 3 day ordeal, hell that we went through just to get access to my own money. Now, to avoid this happening, there are some key things that you can and should do before you move internationally.
And that's having access to your money multiple ways.
Whole bunch of ways, y'all. Look, so right now we got what? Apple Pay,
right,
Google Wallet. But one of our biggest ones that we use a lot is this Wise account, okay? The Wise account allows us to take money from our bank accounts, put them in Wise, allot them an allowance per month. It helps us in a couple of different ways. One of the major ways is our U.S. bank account never comes into contact with these international banks or vendors or anything else. We have an insulator between our U.S. accounts.
We have their virtual card and physical card.
Why? Because our accounts have gone into a couple of times, y'all.
Yep. Lessons learned.
And then we had to go through this authentication thing and then go through shutting down this credit card, get another credit card mailed out to you. It's just a kind of nightmare scenario that keeps unfolding one thing after another. So to insulate yourselves, get a Wise account or some type of account that's a buffer between you and your bank account.
Now, a solution to that authenticator, let's say if you did want to get rid of your U.S. account like we did, and we learned this by experience as well, we had signed up with Text Now, other options that we thought would have worked that do not.
A little acronym I want you to remember. VoIP. Voice over Internet Protocols. All right? Voice over Internet Protocols are not for me. VoIP is not for me. Look, that's stupid behind Google Voice. Our Text Now will not work when you start trying to handle business internationally. They are not secure. 2-factor authentication will not go through them. You will not be able to do any type of real business with an institution that cares about security through those protocols. You're going to have to find another way. VoIP is not for me. So what can we do?
Well, you can keep your U.S. carrier if you want to hang on to that account. You can sign up for a company like Tello, which gives you a U.S. account, not a VoIP. You actually have a U.S. phone number. I
think it's like $5 a month.
Now we're paying the lowest plan, and that allows us to get our text messages whenever we need to access sensitive things like that.
But we're not the only nomads that had this issue, so they have a whole bunch of different apps and authentication.
There's Google
methods.
Authenticator, there's Microsoft Authenticator, there's a few other options out there.
So all kinds of different things that you can do and that you should do and get access to before you move abroad. So everything is okay. You got access to your accounts. Your money is flowing. You have no more anxieties keeping you up at night about not being able to access your money or somebody breaking into your main account and hacking your account.
Right.
But now it's this other looming dark shadow over your head wherever you go in the world. And that is United States taxes. There's some weird kind of stuff going around in the nomadisphere where people are talking about something. If you leave the United States, you don't have to pay no taxes. Or if you leave the United States, you don't have to pay your credit card bills no more. Man, that's a stone cold lie. complete lie.
That is a lie. Do not get caught up in it, because the U.S. is one of those countries in the world that taxes you on your worldwide income. They tax you as long as you hold citizenship.
Yep.
In the U.S.
And they have tentacles going into all these different societies. Like Thailand just signed up last year. We'll give you all the information about your people you want. Whatever the bank accounts are, we'll just give you that information. They have tentacles everywhere. So
these countries are talking and they are sharing information, so you cannot run from your taxes. In fact, like, you might think you can, but the U.S. can revoke your passport
if you owe more than $5,000 in taxes.
If you owe child support.
That's right. The passport does give you freedom, but the IRS holds that leash. One of the biggest barriers to living abroad is earning money. Most people are earning income around new skills they've learned, repackaging old skills, or taking advantage of new trends. There really is no limit. Some people are actually able to turn their knowledge and passion of travel into an actual business. That's where today's sponsor, Fora, comes in.
Fora is a modern travel agency where you can build a real travel business without starting completely from scratch. Fora already has the infrastructure in place: professional booking tools, advisor training, a built-in community, and access to over 7,000 travel partners.
Starting a business solo costs different subscriptions, platforms, setup fees. But a Fora membership covers all of that.
Fora's travel advisor space is serious business. They have access to training, industry knowledge, and experienced advisors. Plus, Fora advisors can unlock perks for clients like upgrades, resort credits, and late checkouts. That's the behind-the-scenes value that really counts.
So if travel is already something you genuinely enjoy planning, become a Fora advisor today at foratravel.com/YouTube.
Or click the link in our description to learn more and become a Fora advisor.
There is a thing called double taxation. You might be considered a tax resident in a particular country if you get residency there, or if you stay for a certain number of days. And in that case, you get taxed on both ends.
On both ends, y'all. Now, you might qualify for some tax exemptions if you live internationally for the majority of the year and all these kind of different things. Just make sure that your ducks in a row. Foreign earned income exclusion is not a myth. You can get exempt from paying U.S. taxes up to a certain threshold, but you have to fall within a lot of different parameters, and you need to know those parameters. Your U.S. tax bill is still due in April. Whether hail or sleet or rain or snow, the IRS got to get their cash flow, period. And they will track you down, revoke your passport, or cause all kinds of trouble for you. Don't get Wesley sniped up in here. Pay your tax bill. Wherever you are at in the United States or outside the United States, worldwide income, they will find you and get their cut eventually. So before you leave the United States, because it is something that's very difficult to set up internationally, get that thing established before you leave. Set your account up online so you can pay your bill when the bill is due. Save yourself the trouble.
Another issue that could turn into a nightmare while you are abroad is figuring out your physical immigration status in these countries.
If you're a slow traveler, there is a lot of different dates that you need to remember. Your registration date, what information needs to be to a country 10 days before I get there, or 3 days before I get there. How long do I get to stay in this country? Your calendar of notifications is kind of long.
It's literally a countdown, and for some people, this can be physically exhausting. This can be mentally exhausting, just because of so many dates that you have to juggle to make sure you are somewhere legally.
Now, it depends on who you are, quite frankly. This is something that did not require a whole lot of mental bandwidth from myself. When the dates come up, we'll handle it when it gets there. I'll be all right. But as we talk to friends and whatnot, this is like taxing problem on their mental state.
We're not just talking about friends. We're talking about me. Like, I'm one of those people, because this is like where you get intimately familiar with border runs and visa agents and immigration officers and extension offices and things like that, because when you're a slow traveler, you are constantly managing a calendar of countdowns. 30 days here, 90 days here. You get intimately familiar with border runs, visa agents, extension offices, immigration centers, and wondering if the immigration officer that you're going through today is going to look at your passports and say that this is the day that they turn you away.
If we're going to be honest, our first few years on the road, April was wound up tight. All around
For
our
sure.
different check-ins, all around our
Yeah.
visa runs. April was wound up tight. Are you still that way?
I'm less so, and I think that's because of the experience that we've had. Like I'm not typically a type A person, but I was a type A traveler during the times where we really had to make sure our paperwork was in order.
Now, we don't have a remedy for this. I think only time on the road gives you that kind of peace, knowing that you're going to move on to the next destination when it's time, knowing that, oh, it's been a couple of months. I have that notification in my phone that says, oh, it's time for us to get up out of here or whatever. But you need to know that there are lots of different dates that you need to be aware of. If you spend over 183 days in most countries, you become a tax resident.
Yep.
This country had 60 days, but then they extended it to 90 days so I can stay here a little bit longer. Or, inside of this country, I can stay 60 days, but I have to go check in their immigration department for another additional 30 days. All kinds of different information, and nobody's responsible for it except for you.
Right. So while you might be in a place and you're like, all right, I got 45 days. I'm going to unpack all my things. I'm going to put my stuff in the closet and my clothes in the drawer. Like mentally, though, it's harder to unpack because you're thinking about what's next.
That's something that people don't talk about that you should be aware of. And Lord forbid you get sick and you have to do a border run.
With sicknesses, no matter whether you're home or abroad, you have to make sure that you are covered. A lot of times when we're traveling, when we're taking vacations and things like that, your travel medical coverage might be sufficient.
Yeah, so there are a couple of different coverages out here for nomads, right? The majority of coverages out here in the world, when you look at nomad insurance plans, they make it seem like this insurance that you get is all comprehensive and it follows you wherever you go across the globe. The reality of the situation is standard travel insurance is made for catastrophes, for when major things go wrong, not for routine maintenance, not for getting your blood work, or not for getting your regular checkup. So make sure that the insurance that you get is to the level that you need it, especially if you are growing older out here internationally. Now, a lot of countries that you go to, you can afford to get your own blood work. You can afford to buy the medication. You can afford to do a lot of different things because the U.S. is absolutely raping their citizens in the medical fields. But there are some plans out here that can take care of you. There's worldwide coverage. SafetyWing has a plan called Nomad.
Nomad Insurance Complete. Right, and that's their comprehensive coverage. They've had Nomad Insurance Essential for a while, and that's the basic coverage for travelers on vacation and things like that. But when you're living internationally, you want regular maintenance on things.
Want to get your blood work done.
Right.
You want to do regular checkups. Make sure that you are good to go. And that coverage does that. So if you are interested in the Nomad Insurance Complete, the affiliate link is in our description.
This is one that sneaks up on you. You miss the birthdays, the baby showers, the Sunday dinners, the holidays. And at first, everyone is staying in touch with FaceTime, but gradually, life starts to move on, time zones start to wear everyone down, and you start to feel a bit disconnected. And because you're losing that anchor back home, you try to find it abroad, which presents a set of its own problems.
Finding your community internationally is a job on its own. Now, maintaining that community is a whole nother set of issues. We've ran into some really good friends on the road, and we haven't seen them since the last country that we were in. We've also ran into people that we've intentionally ran into in multiple different countries. So we're not going to sit up here and tell you that, it's just such a sad song, but some people suffer from chronic isolation.
I mean, the nomad community, it's very transient. We travel a lot, and so do a lot of people.
Everybody we know, you know what I'm saying? Everybody is on their way somewhere. So that can be a problem if you're a person that thrives on that human connection.
I mean, it gets tough. Or just know that isolation may be something that you experience.
Yeah.
And there are communities where, transient travelers kind of
That's true. You know what?
In and out.
This 2026, y'all. Yeah. So they're, FaceTiming folks, all kinds of different digital meetups, all kinds of different meetups. Honestly, this was on our list, but I don't feel that strongly about it. But it's something that you should be aware of. It is a real thing, feeling lonely in a whole different country. Having to go out to places where nobody knows your name, nobody speaks your language, you're ordering something to eat, it's difficult to order whatever it is to eat.
Right. And then like back home, right? Those friendships are a bit different. Right now I have family who's rallied around another family member who is waiting on the birth of a new baby coming in. We're missing that.
Yep. Real talk. Kids, graduations, marriages, baby showers, all that stuff. Real things that you're going to miss living on the road.
You will always be a guest. You will always be looked at through the lens of a tourist or an expat, although you will notice that you're making strides when you're no longer being charged that tourist tax.
I love being places where we fit in, where people can tell that we are not locals until we open our mouth. Right. That is awesome. But the majority of places that you go, oh, buddy, you're another.
And we don't mind being others.
Not at all.
Sometimes we're one of the only. So you might turn heads. There might be stares and pictures and pointing and laughing, curiosity, admiration. There's a whole gambit of things you might experience being an other, one of which being you don't feel like you'd ever belong in the society or the community that you're in. Now,
you meet some aunties, you meet some uncles that take you in and take you under their wing. I'm not trying to say that does not happen. That happens quite often, but it is not commonplace. And when it does happen, you celebrate it. But there's a level of being comfortable in your own skin that you are confronted with when you live abroad. And coming to terms with that sooner than later will enable you to be a happier person.
Yeah. And that's the beauty of when you're abroad and you're meeting people, building your own tribe, your own community. I'm not just talking about your community of foreigners, but of locals alike, as much as you can, trying to assimilate to where you are.
This is the new world. This is it. International lifestyle. One globe, one love, one people. We're all trying to come together in our own different ways to unite to be a family of choice, if that makes sense at all. If you cannot get along in this world, then don't take it on. But these people out here lying to you, acting like it's all excursions, it's all exotic food, and none of the downside.
It is adventurous, it's exciting.
It's also diarrhea, it's also headaches, you know what I'm saying?
It's also challenging.
It's also challenging. Like, you need to know these things, man. You're not signing up for an extended vacation, you're signing up for a lifestyle. Now, our final little piece of this puzzle is something that's not going to make sense to you, honestly. But the longer you stay internationally, the weirder it's going to be when you go back.
And this is reverse culture shock.
Look, man, re-entering the matrix after you've been out of it, man, you see things for what they are. It's no disrespect to the people who are in the United States, but it's like the United States is not a real place.
You realize that you've changed a bit, right?
Yeah.
Maybe you've changed a lot, but it will seem like other things have kind of stayed the same.
It'll seem like people are just consumed with consuming everything around them. It'll seem like the chicken wings are bigger than your head. This is reverse culture shock, and it is a real thing. Every time we go back, we're just itching to get back to our real lives. We want to see our families, we want to see our friends, want to spread the love. But I don't know, the atmosphere of the United States, it just kind of wears on you.
For example, you know how people will complain or experience culture shock when Americans are tipping abroad, right? Or they come to the States and realize that they have to tip when that's not normal in their country.
Look, we went to a submarine shop. A submarine shop where you order a sub, they prepare it. When you get down to the line, they had this thing of tipping, and it wasn't even 10%. It started at 20%.
When y'all make that change?
We went to go get groceries, and the self-checkout line had a tip thing on there. For people who live internationally, this is some wild behavior. And every time we go back, it seems like it's wilder and wilder.
We would love to hear some reverse culture shocks
hit us
that
up.
you've had in the comments.
Hit us up. We appreciate you guys rolling with us. If you have any remedies that we have not covered inside of this video for the different things that we talked about, because this is a community, this is a growing community, we really want you to hit us up in the comments, get at us, talk to us about your experiences. We are here to listen. We are here to share. We are here to learn. We're here to grow. And we're here to love.